If you are in IT, tech recruitment, you are likely to encounter some of the buzzwords, some of the lingo, some of the vocabulary that you may not really understand. So these are not really technical terms such as backend or frontend, but they are usually used by developers or hiring managers somehow, in a general conversation. So if you interact with hiring managers or if you interact with candidates, you may find this Silicon Valley dictionary really useful. And I have selected 11 keywords, 11 words or phrases that you may find useful. So let's start with the first one. So what is a stack? And hiring managers usually say, our stack includes X, Y, and Z. So the stack is a set of technologies, set of programming languages or frameworks or tools they use together. And there are some commonly used stacks, for example, LAMP, mean, MERN. Probably I could write it right here. So LAMP, L-A-M-P, or mean, M-E-A-N, M-E-R-N. So these stacks usually identify some combination that is frequently used together. So for example, LAMP, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. So PHP developers usually use MySQL, Apache, and Linux together. JavaScript developers usually use, for example, this R stands for React, A stands for Angular. So they use these two frameworks together with MongoDB database or Node.js on the backend, and they usually refer to this combination with these words, mean or MERN. So a hiring manager can just say casually, hey, dear recruiter, we use mean. And you should immediately know what does he mean by that. That was kind of a joke right here, right? So number two, 10x engineer. Usually by this, they are referring to someone who is extremely productive. So an engineer that is so much better than the average engineer. And I know, like all of us hiring managers want the top people, right? The most talented, the most productive people, not just engineers, but in general. But these people usually work for companies that can really afford these top people. So probably thinking of companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, like they have these 10x engineers on their teams. This is the term usually referring to those productive people who may be willing to work overnights, who are really passionate about development, and they work in the evenings, over the weekends, and they deliver great software. So these are 10x engineers. Big data is usually referring to huge amounts of data. So in the past, we had just data, and we still do, but some amounts of data are usually referred to as big data. So it could be a system that is processing lots of events every hour, every day, terabytes of data through, some advertising clicks or whatnot, and that's usually referred to as big data. And it's very interesting and exciting for developers to join such company because there are lots of challenges when it comes to processing those big data. Also, business intelligence analysts or managers like working for companies that have big data because they can analyze these vast amounts of data. Cloud is referring to servers stored in data centers around the world. So they are actually not in clouds as you could imagine, but there are data centers which make it easy for developers to create a new server, store data somewhere, and they don't even know where it is. It feels like in a cloud, but it's somewhere effectively in a data center. But the developer does not really need to know where it is. They don't set up the server, they don't take care of it, someone else does. And they just use it in the cloud. That's why it's usually referred to as a cloud. Cloud solutions. Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud solutions, or Microsoft Azure has their own cloud solution. Technical debt is a term referring to accumulated mess, we could say. In the beginning, the developers usually need to deliver something really quick. And also in my previous company, we had to create some prototypes, we had to test a few ideas really quick. And in that case, you don't really bother much with all the best practices and documentation and tests, etc. So you just do some quick, dirty work to show the managers that it could be done and how it actually, what it looks like. But what sometimes happens is that developers continue with this shitty code, and they continue and they move on, which eventually creates the technical debt, because at some point they will not. It will not be sustainable. They will not be able to scale. So that's the term usually referring to the technical debt. And why is it important for you as a recruiter? Well, you may have a hiring manager who says, look, we need someone to help us get rid of the technical debt. So in other words, they are looking for someone to restructure, to refactor some existing code base, to create a new one. So not creating something completely from scratch, but rather removing the debt. And there is always some debt. It's just after some threshold, it becomes unsustainable. Get shit done. This is the term we can see in JDs of those startups from San Francisco. They're looking for people who can get shit done. So this is the GSD, sometimes acronym, GSD, get shit done. Usually it was get stuff done, but now, because they are cool San Francisco startups, they say we need someone to get shit done. So probably someone like this 10x engineer, someone who is productive, someone who is very hands-on, not this kind of manager who is just overseeing, but someone who can get his or her hands dirty. Bug. In this context of IT software development, we are not talking about bugs just running on the floor, but rather we mean something like an issue, some defect in software. So something does not work as it is expected to work. So it's a bug. A/B testing refers to different, testing of different variants. So usually the one variant is referred to as the option A, and the second one is the option B. And developers or business analysts or system analysts or different people in the organization can test different variations. Business intelligence specialists may take, or even marketing people may analyze different options when it comes to the implementation of a particular function. So A/B testing of different variations. Poaching refers to a term when someone is trying to get people from some company, especially if I use some real world, real case story. In my previous company, our competitor was poaching developers from our company because they were in the same industry. The competitor knew that our people are well trained. They are, they understand the industry, also the IT. So they were poaching people from our company. They were approaching our colleagues and trying to hire them strategically. So that's poaching. Uninstalled is usually referring to someone who is fired. An application could be uninstalled in your laptop, but within the IT recruitment or IT HR context, this is some kind of a internal joke. A developer can say, I was uninstalled. So normally an application is uninstalled, but if a person is uninstalled, it means he was fired. he left the company. Pre-revenue is referring to a startup, some company that has just started recently, probably a few months ago or a year ago. They are getting some traction, but not revenues yet. So they are pre-revenue. They don't have any revenues yet. And that's quite common in San Francisco. Startups, usually they establish a team, they create some product, they launch a product, and they are trying to get users and not just revenues. So they focus on user acquisition instead of revenue generation. So they refer to these kind of startups as pre-revenue startups. So this vocabulary will help you talk to hiring managers, not just from San Francisco, but from around the world, who will use some of these terms: bug, pre-revenue, poaching, 10x engineer. For example, speaking of poaching, you can ask the hiring manager, what company should we not poach developers from? Because they may know some companies in this area, they may have some relationships, they may have some agreements not to poach from each other. So you can ask this question, okay? So if you would like to learn more about IT recruitment specifically, join our Tech Recruitment Academy. We organize training programs like the one that is starting on June 21st, which is in about 2 weeks from now. We are going to go through different IT terms, not just this, but I mean specifically IT, backend developers, front-end, full stack, mobile, the programming languages and frameworks. So you can effectively start recruiting for these IT professionals. So that's what we call the Tech Recruitment Program. It's a 2 weeks or 3 week long program that is good for people who have never worked in IT, and we can help you become really proficient in IT recruitment. So join our Tech Recruitment Academy, join our Tech Recruitment Program, and we will help you become a confident IT recruiter.